Greetings, everyone. Hey, I just had a fun day. Yeah, I had to make a trip into Amherst, which is just north of Buffalo, and have a stress test. Man, my cardiologist just figured it was a good idea to check things out, make sure the old ticker's functioning properly. Nothing to worry about. Everything came out fine. In fact, it was just a piece of cake until I came home. Yeah, when I was getting ready to leave, they have these little uh, electrodes kind of stuck all over your chest to read what's going on with the heart. And they're stuck on there with these little pads. They got gooey stuff on them and tape. So I said, "Hey, are we going to take those off?" And he goes, "Oh, no, just do that when you get home. They just pull right off." Oh, okay. So I come home. Oh my goodness. I left half my skin on the little pads. I'm sure that's what happened. I have little red dots all over my chest. So come on, Doc. Come up with something new to put on there, right? Oh, well. Hey, all for a good cause. Just to make sure I'm healthy and nothing bad is going on in there. But what are we talking about with Psalm 92? We're talking about our common lectionary people getting together and taking out all the bad stuff from Psalm 92. The bad stuff? Yeah, how God kind of does a thing to those who aren't following his ways. And that's cut out, and all we have is the good news. Hey, if you do good and follow God's ways, then you're going to flourish like these gigantic trees all around you. They keep bearing fruit even though they're 1,000,000 years old. Yeah, well, not 1,000,000, but you get the idea. So, so what's going on with Psalm 92? You know what I like about it? More than what it has to say, and it has to say a good thing, it's how it's put together because it shows us that these people who sat down to write the Psalms, they took great care in doing it. And they did it in a wonderful, beautiful way. They wrote it in Hebrew, of course, so you and I can really appreciate that, right? Appreciate the beauty just flowing out of there. Well, not so much, because sometimes in the translations into English, a lot gets lost. And that does happen with this one to some degree, but let's just look at it. It's 15 verses long, so do not do what the common lectionary people did, and that was cut out the middle verses. Keep them in there, even though that's where the bad stuff is. Keep it there because you see what's happening is you have a psalm that has 7 verses, then a pivot point, a middle verse, and 7 more verses. And it's as if the psalm starts on a high note, degenerates a lot into the bad stuff, then right in the middle, bam, you're hit again with the good stuff, but then it only lasts for 1 verse. Then you're back to the bad stuff, but it builds up to the good stuff again and ends on basically the same note that it started with, and that's proclaimed in the middle. So there's that's called a chiastic structure, where it starts up here, comes all the way through to a middle point, and then ends back almost where you started again, only in a different place. A little crazy to understand? Well, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That's a chiastic structure. You start here, end up in the middle, and come back to the beginning. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Okay, now you get it. Well, do that with 7 verses before and 7 verses after. You have a pretty wild chiastic thing going on here. In the Hebrew, there are exactly 52 Hebrew words before the middle verse and 52 Hebrew words after the middle verse. So it's a pretty cool thing. But what's going on what is Psalm 92 basically telling us? Well, it's saying that God is to be revered. In fact, there's at the beginning of the psalm, most of your Bibles will have an inscription that's attributed to this psalm, and mine says, "A psalm for the Sabbath day." This is the only psalm in all the psalms that is said it's for the Sabbath day. So if you're going to the temple and it's the Sabbath, you're going to be hearing this psalm. You're probably going to be reciting it. And it talks about giving our thanks and our praise to God for his steadfast love. Oh my goodness, his mercy and his steadfast love. That's popping up all over the place. We keep hearing that time and time again. And it tells us to just sing it out loud. Make music with the lute and the harp and the lyre. Oh, yeah. Bring out the guitars and the bongo drums and the piano. Do all that kind of stuff. And it talks about just how wonderful everything that God does is. How great are your works, O Lord. But you know what? Then it gets to where, there are those who just totally ignore you. They could care less. They say, nah, that's just the way things are. God has nothing to do with it. There is no God. You get into all that kind of thing, and basically it says God's going to take care of them. Don't worry about it. So don't get into it, those arguments with them. Just let it go. Verse 8 is the verse that's right smack dab in the middle. But you, O Lord, are on high forever. So it's you, O Yahweh, are on high forever. You're the one that's being exalted here. And it goes on to talk about you and me when we do pay attention to God and we do revel in all the beauty that's around us. The righteous flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. The giant sequoias, just think of that out west. And then you got the cedars of Lebanon. They're planted in the house of the Lord. What? Planted right in church? So I guess we got to start digging up. No, I'll tell you what. We'll bring in buckets of dirt and put the trees in that. Okay, that'll keep it a little cleaner inside the church. But they're planted right in the house of the Lord. They flourish in the courts of our God. Okay, we'll plant them outside. There you go, in the courts. And it all ends this way, that the Lord is our rock. There is no unrighteousness in him. So it's a beautiful, beautiful psalm. And once again, if you are fluent in the ancient Hebrew text, you can see the beautiful way the poetry just comes full cycle from starting at point A, worshiping, giving thanks to God, moving through some bad stuff to point the very, very middle. Hey, God is he's the one, he's the most high, and moves through all the good stuff, you and me, flourishing when we follow his ways, and ends with he is our rock. Okay, well, I just have one word of advice, especially for the guys out there. Before you go to have a stress test, you might want to get a razor and get all those hairs off there first. It's a lot more comfortable, I'm sure, once you get home and remove those little sticky things. God's blessings be with you.